Alright guys, and now we are back with the showdown between the Warriors of Chaos, who shall be helmed by Prince SIGVALD, and the Empire, who's going to be led by Boris Todbringer and his powerful ass mustache. So on that note guys, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So here in the front line, we're going to be going pretty heavy metal. In total we have 5 groups of the Chaos Warriors with the great weapons, and it's kind of like a double mind game, right? So here's how it goes. So oftentimes the Empire is going to slip in a couple greatswords because they're going to be expecting the Warriors of Chaos to bring Marauders and just cheap infantry to kind of swarm them and get into their gun line. So them expecting me to bring Marauders then leads to me bringing Chaos Warriors to counter their expectation with the Greatsword. You guys get the picture. So I'm going to be trying to just beat down the Greatswords and really just grind through the infantry fight. It might be a little bit of overkill, but that's what Chaos is all about. Just getting heavily armored infantry, just pushing forward and just being heavy metal. So in total we have 5 of those guys, and on the flanks we do of course have Marauders. I think they're pretty good against the Empire. They're relatively fast. They can get around the flanks, get into the guns, and they deal with spears and state troops pretty effectively. So we have 2 on this flank and 2 on the other side as well. So yeah, they're shielded, decent combat stats, can't complain. On top of that, we have a couple Chaos Poison Warhounds, and these guys are just essential against the Empire. Getting onto the cannons, getting into the handgunners. If they're going to be cycle charging it with Empire Knights or Reichsguard or Demogryph Knights, these guys are very good for slowing them down and allowing your other assets to get there and do some heavy lifting. So 2 groups of the Chaos Poison Warhounds, and for our kind of anti-heavy, we do have 3 groups of the Marauder Horseman with throwing axes. Now, I'm trying something a little bit experimental here with Prince SIGVALD. I personally think he's a bit of a mediocre lord in general. However, he is very cheap. He only costs 1200. He does allow you to go a little bit wider, and he is very tough to snipe. So if they're coming with Carl, they're coming with Focus Fire, this guy can live. He can do his thing, but he's not going to like kill a lot of stuff or get a lot done, but he's not going to die. So it's kind of a bit of a trade because the Empire is one of those factions that really loves to isolate targets and just take them apart. So we're going to try to be, giving him a test run and seeing how he does. He does, of course, have the Auric Armor. He's immune to psychology, so he's going to be healing himself. And yeah, that's pretty much it. 3 Marauder Horsemen throwing axes to take on the big flying characters like Boris and the Heavy Cav and, the Knights. They're very, very good for sure. Granted, Riotist actually brought a really cool build. So he has a bunch of Pistoliers, which you wouldn't think they'd be super good against the Armor of Chaos, but they're actually doing some decent poke in the front line here. But more importantly, they give him a very, very hard counter against the Marauder Horsemen. They have 80 range against my 70. They have direct fire. They're going to be able to just outclass the Marauder Horsemen very effectively if played correctly. So my horsemen are going to be a little bit busy, but hopefully they can get on the appropriate targets. And one of my favorite units in the game. I know it's not the best pick. Dragon Ogre is probably a little bit safer here, but nonetheless, I love Chaos Knights. They're just so cool looking, so heavy metal, but we went with the sustained combat variant. They have insane stats, 44, 50, and 40 for their combat stats respectively. They're basically like chosen on horseback, but we're going to be seeing how they do. Trying to get into the back line, maybe charge through some of those squishy infantry, get onto the guns, have some fun. And for our caster, we do have a Shadow Caster as well. He's going to be dropping the Pendulum, Enfeebling Foe, and Melkost is really good for slowing down Empire Knights and things like that. So we're going to have some fun. So for Riot's build, he's got Boris, of course, with all his healing capabilities, some Empire Knights here on the flanks. On top of that, he's got 4 Pistoliers, so just going straight up Wild West on me here. A Light Wizard, Baroness Time Warp is going to be very good for the Greatswords and the other state troops to kind of give him a fighting chance against Chaos. And the Nets is always very good if you're going to be going with, sniping characters like Boris or Carl, and if you wanted, slow the Chaos advance. He's got 2 Empire Knights in the back line for state troops, Spearmen with Greatswords in reserves, 2 Handgunners in the back, and they're going to be protected by some, or just one group of Empire Knights, and a Witch Hunter. So yeah, pretty lore-friendly. Witch Hunter is going to be accusing SIGVALD of heresy, which actually makes sense for once. And that's pretty much it. So on that note, guys, let's get the show on the road and have some fun. So the skirmishing going in pretty hard here. You can see he's getting some pretty good damage on the great weapons, even with the Pistoliers. And the Empire Knights did get a nice little juicy cycle charge there into the Chaos Marauders. But he does overextend a little bit with Boris Todbringer. So Toddy's going to be flying over, getting a little bit crazy, and going to be taking some throwing axes to the face. Now with Carl, this would be a little bit of an issue, right? Because Carl can't heal, but Toddy is going to be able to heal himself, which is going to be pretty good. We actually have a pretty heavy fight over here. So some of these Empire Knights do charge into the Hounds, which is a good play. He does a lot of damage, but I do swarm in with Marauders. And the other one, I'm trying to sprint up and around the back to get behind these guys so they can't escape. And they now have 51 speed, so these guys are going to be relatively slow, and I think I should be able to get a decent engagement. So we're going to be taking a hard push into these Pistoliers. I'm taking a lot of damage here. The Chaos Warriors are just taking a beating from the pistols, actually. And my Hounds, I was trying to get a sneaky grab here on the Light Wizard, but he reacted very quickly with these Empire Knights and was able to screen out my Warhounds. And he actually used a net on them as well, so there's pretty much no chance of getting away there. I was like, did I let that happen, or did I get netted? I think it was a net. But anyways, over here, we get a good engagement. We get Toddy down to like 40%, so a really, really good start for us here. On top of that, we're able to just drag down the Empire Knights. We use a Melkost, they're poison, so they're going to be having a double slow, minus 24%, and another 24, 25 from the poison. I think the Hounds still had him poisoned at that point. But anyways, a good trade for us. We get the Empire Knights, we get Toddy very low. Bounce Power's, pretty even at this point. Toddy is certainly going to be able to heal. And also on top of that, even though, it's a good situation for us, pretty dominant, right? Boris Todbringer took damage, we killed Empire Knights, we have a really good corral on his Pistoliers here, which is great. But only half of our forces engaging up here now. So it's a little bit of a kind of a split up, right? He split up my forces, which is very solid. Granted, we're having an okay situation up here. So my Marauders are going to be going up and over the top, trying to get around. The Chaos Knights get a really nice charge here on the Empire Knights and just toss their salad, just give them the straight up business, getting into those guys. Now the Great Weapons and SIGVALD are going to be engaging against these state troops, and hopefully it'll be a good engagement for us. But, you know, I don't have a ton of backline pressure because so much of my army is over here. So I didn't partition my army very effectively. I figured that since Prince SIGVALD was over here, he was going to be able to kind of handle this and get in there and cause some problems. But then I remembered it's just SIGVALD. It's not like it's Sartorial, who could just like rampage into the back line and do whatever he pleases. So anyways, my Marauder Horsemen are going to be chasing down Toddy, trying to get a little bit of business done, and I do overextend a little bit with the Horsemen. I just felt very confident in the position, and I accidentally charged into a couple spears here, it looks like. I can't quite remember, but it was a bit of a disastrous situation nonetheless, but yeah, I actually pulled back there, so not so bad. But in the front line, you can see the Chaos Warriors are being accused of heresy, so certainly accurate in this case, and some of the Spearmen are holding pretty firm here, but the other Chaos Warriors are going to be surging into the backline, Marauders coming up and over the top, and now the Chaos Knights are going to be helping with the Greatswords here, just trying to grind them down with Prince SIGVALD, and I believe I have some infantry fighting as well, which are just going to be some Chaos Marauders. But at this point, I decided to pull back, so I'm going to be pulling these guys back and trying to charge up and through this open pocket. And right here, Ritus gets a beautiful charge. These Empire Knights getting a massive just lance charge here against these Chaos Marauders. It's not going to do a ton of damage, but you know, Chaos Knights are or Empire Knights are so heavily armored for their cost. They have 110 armor that Marauders are barely going to be able to scratch their armor, which is very, very good. Chaos Warriors are about to get through, which is very solid, but very good focus fire here from the Empire, just going after those Chaos Knights who do have shields, but nonetheless, you really need that heavy AP to kind of punch through those guys. And the rest of my Chaos Horde, I think one of them I detached over here to just kind of chase those Pistoliers and try and screen them out, but the rest of the Chaos Infantry have taken their engagement. So we have Chaos Warriors with Great Weapons here in the front that are going to be fighting. A fat Pendulum getting dropped in the distance. I actually dropped it over there on Spearmen, which you should use it on Greatswords typically, but in this case, I was like, I need to bust open the back line. This is like the greatest, just most direct path right here. So let's do that. Let's kill these Spearmen, and then my Chaos Warriors can kind of surge forth from there. Bounce Fire is still pretty even. Another net of M top going down to the Chaos Knights. It actually might have been the first one, I can't recall, but it does a ton of damage. From here, I'm going to be moving the Chaos Knights in, just trying to break through here, but Toddy's here, and Toddy has great AP, and he's actually using Pistoliers to kind of stand and fight. So the Pistoliers have pretty terrible combat stats, but they're still bodies, right? So it's HP, it's bodies, it's holding my guys in place, and buying very valuable time for these Empire guns to fall back. In the meantime, my Shadow Wizard is going to be getting in there, trying to be all spooky and scary. And here, my Marauder Horseman, I have taken a melee engagement against the Pistoliers, but the Barona's Time Warp has been casting them. So suddenly they have a 46 melee attack. They're actually doing quite a bit of damage against my Marauders. Now, typically, a very advantageous fight for the Marauder Horseman, but in this case, with the Barona's Time Warp, it's going to be a little bit spooky, but we still end up winning the engagement. We have some Chaos Warriors kind of piling in the back, so very, very good stuff for us, getting rid of two of the Pistoliers. And SIGVALD is, he's been working, working for Slaanesh over here. He is getting these great swords down and doing a little bit of work against them, but they're enduring. I mean, these guys are fighting to the bitter end, just like straight up Temple Guard status. Over here, it looks like Toddy is able to get a really good charge here on my Chaos Sorcerer with Shadows, so a huge mistake on my part kind of sending this guy forward, because I should have been more cognizant of that, right? He has Nets of Damage Talk. He's been using it very well this entire game, so if I send this guy in, he's probably going to get netted and just gooned out here. So SIGVALD's going to be charging in, but I feel like SIGVALD would actually be, he's not bad. I think SIGVALD is like situational and niche, but I think if he had a horse, he would be a much more viable pick for a Chaos. He would just be like a 1300 gold pick that's going to be durable, he's not going to die, and he heals himself. And maybe if he got the AP buff that characters like Archeon and the others did, he'd be pretty solid. Anyways, Boris Thoughtbringer going to be chasing off my caster, and with that like one push, everything else was like relatively even up until that moment. When he got that net, everything kind of starts to fall apart for my forces. The Chaos Warriors here and the Marauders are pushing in, so this is a good situation. We have the backline relatively compromised, his guns are running here, the Marauders are going to be pushing in as well. SIGVALD's healthy, Marauder Horseman. It looks like if you look across the battlefield as a whole, it actually looks really good. My forces are kind of like pincering in here. We're finally going to catch these guns. But the fact that he does have a Witch Hunter, he has a Light Wizard, he has Toddy up in the skies on his Griffin, who's exponentially more powerful than SIGVALD, I can actually see why the bounce of power is in his favor. But anyways, we're going to be going in here. Empire Knight's going to be getting a nice charge into the side of these Chaos Marauders, freeing up the gun line, who are probably in guard mode. These guys are going to be just teeing off my great weapons, who are going to be held up by spears. But SIGVALD, hopefully for my sake, will be able to kind of chop through those guys and get me back in the game. But it is incredibly hard to kill Witch Hunters. They can run, they can 360 no-scope. These guys do a ton of work. And if you look in the distance, I have some Hounds that have rallied, but there are going to be some Greatswords. So 64 Greatswords, 44 Spearmen, another 44 State Troops. It's going to be a lot for my guys to really grind out, especially with Boris Thoughtbringer helping out. And you can see the guns are just online, they're shooting. Ritus has done an outstanding job of just keeping those guys going. SIGVALD does do a pretty good job kind of beating down the Light Wizard. He's going to be jumping into some of these guns right here. But that's pretty much going to be all she wrote. So very well played, Ritus. It was an awesome close game, just back and forth. Initially, I thought I had a really good grab. Cav. And the first couple of fights were really good. We were able to catch both Empire Knights, get some good counter skirmishing in, but at the end, he really just held firm. His net play was impeccable. He did such a good job with that, like netting down. Whenever I left anything isolated, whether it be my Chaos Knights getting into open field or my Caster getting into open field, he was able to net them, get a ton of work, and he did actually distract and kind of split my army in the beginning, which really took away from this, the solid just raw strength of my Chaos forces, which I thought was a pretty badass tactic. If intentional, I'm not sure, but it was very, very good. So, yeah, as far as his army goes, I really wouldn't have expected Pistoliers to be so good and so effective, but, they're actually pretty good. I mean, yeah, they're good in other matchups, like Beastmen. I think they're great against Centaurs, but they're actually a pretty good counter skirmishing tool against Marauder Horseman, so that worked out pretty damn well for sure. And also, if I had brought, like, Dragon Ogres, for example, another very popular pick for Chaos against, Empire Heavy Cav, the Pistoliers do give you some good withering fire on those, so just awesome pick from him. I really like that quite a bit, and I learned something today for sure. So the Handgunners did good. Great Swords served Sigmar well, especially these guys who went down to the last man, basically. And yeah, it was an awesome game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Chaos vs Empire showdown, and that is pretty much it for now. So we'll see you guys next time, and thanks again for watching.